Papaioannoy, and I'm here today representing Rights for Vapers, Canada's largest advocacy movement for vaping and safer nicotine products. Joining me is Sam Tam from the Canadian Vaping Association, and together we're here to talk about some critical issues surrounding vaping and safer nicotine products in Canada. I'll begin with a few key points, and then Sam will speak before we open the floor to questions. Over the past 10 years, since vaping entered the market, we've seen a disturbing pattern of fear-mongering, misinformation, and deliberate efforts to push people back towards smoking. Instead of celebrating the fact that more Canadians are quitting, we're being misled by a small but very vocal group of tobacco control zealots who keep shifting the narrative around smoking and vaping. They rely on sensationalism, using children as weapons, and in their mission to eliminate any options for Canadians to quit smoking that are not created by pharmaceutical companies. These groups have gone so far as to criticize Minister Sachs for having a conversation with Canadians about vaping. Why? Because she doesn't blindly follow their demands to ban flavors in this country. I, like most Canadians, about 2 million of us who vape today, successfully use vaping to quit. I am truly perplexed by the attempts to create barriers against proven methods to reduce tobacco-related illness. We can all agree that kids should not have access or use vaping products. There are laws in place already for stopping this. Responsible shop owners don't sell to kids. These kids are getting vapor products from friends, family members, their parents, and most disturbing, a black market. It is time to enforce the laws already in place and not target law-abiding adults who simply want an alternative to smoking. The evidence is clear. Vaping is one of the most effective tools for quitting smoking, and it's time to stop letting misinformation get in the way of that. So today we're going to make 3 requests to our government. 1, it's time to reform tobacco control organizations. We're calling on the government and Health Canada to dismantle and defund the current structure of tobacco control organizations in our country. They are not advocates for improving public health. Last week, we witnessed these organizations publicly pressure our Minister of Mental Health and Addictions to take swift action, showing little concern for the broader consequences. We know what will happen with a national flavor ban because we have seen it in Quebec. Flavors will continue to be available, but the market will move underground where it is not regulated. Today, after 1 year of a flavor ban, flavors are still available in Quebec, kids still vape in Quebec, and some people who vape in Quebec have returned to smoking. Flavor bans do not work. This approach is not just misguided, it's driven by misinformation, and it's time for change. I personally was speechless when I saw 3 longstanding members of Canada's tobacco control regime, individuals with decades of experience, demand that Minister Sachs follow the leads of countries like Brazil, Thailand, India, and China in banning flavored nicotine products, or she should leave her job. Are these the countries that we should be emulating when it comes to regulations? We must not forget the long history of human rights violations in each of these countries. This isn't just a lapse in judgment. It reflects just how broken and out of touch these tobacco control organizations have become when they celebrate policies from countries with horrific human rights violations. They did mention Denmark and Finland and praised them for their flavor ban. Sweden was notably overlooked despite reducing its smoking rate to under 5%, largely due to snus and flavored nicotine pouches that have played a vital role in harm reduction. Similarly, New Zealand, which embraced vaping, including flavored options, has seen a remarkable progress in their smoking rates. Since promoting vaping in 2019, their smoking rates have dropped from 11.8% to 6.8%. in less than 4 years. Number 2, the need for federal leadership. We have seen a shift in how the federal government views vaping. We are grateful, and we are grateful that they do not take a knee-jerk reaction and to the emotional pleas of tobacco control. Health Canada is studying the research. Our collective goal is to help Canadians who quit smoking. Does it really matter how they do it? We need the federal government to step up even more and work with their provincial counterparts to implement consistent regulations. Today, there are different regulations in each province and territory. This results in the proliferation of the black market and confusion. Can we just simply have one set of effective regulations that are based on science for all Canadians? We urge Health Canada also to pause its involvement with the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, called FCTC, and reconsider attending COP11 in Geneva next year. Canada needs to advocate for tobacco harm reduction, not only in this country, but on a global level. Ensuring vaping and other safer nicotine products are recognized for their role in helping people quit smoking. The World Health Organization currently does not recognize tobacco harm reduction products. Number 3, and finally, we need a new legislative framework. So we're going to call on the Senate to create a new framework for dealing with nicotine products through the introduction of the Safer Nicotine Act. We want a bill that would ensure that all safer nicotine products are regulated fairly and equally, focusing on who needs them, not on who produces them. It's not the government's role to dictate how Canadians should quit smoking. It's the government's responsibility to ensure that all products are safe, regulated, and kept out of the hands of minors. In 2025, R4V will host a Safer Nicotine Conference in Ottawa during National Non-Smoking Week. We are inviting all stakeholders. We have a goal of creating a proposed regulatory framework that strikes the right balance to help Canadians transition away from combustible products and keep the products safe and out of the hands of minors. Tobacco Control came here and wants Minister Sachs to be like Minister Holland. And we have a message for Minister Holland. We want you, Minister Holland, to remember that your responsibility is to Canadians as the Minister of Health, not the Minister of Heart and Stroke. Your duty is to all Canadians when it comes to smoking cessation, not to appease your former colleagues in tobacco control. It's time to let Minister Sachs and Health Canada do their job in tackling tobacco-related illness in this country. We need to acknowledge our shared objectives, and we want to be clear. We want people to quit smoking, and we don't want kids developing nicotine addictions. To achieve this, we must focus on real change and put an end to all theatrics. Everybody needs to be part of this effort. We ask our government to meet us where we are at. I will now pass it to Sam Tam.
Thank you, Maria. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Maria. You bring the voice of every Canadian to these forums. They have the right to be heard. I'm Sam Tam, President of the Canadian Vaping Association. Today, we appear before you in this press conference to clear up some misconceptions surrounding vaping. For over a decade, the CVA has represented the legal vaping industry as the largest trade association in Canada. We regularly engage with government agencies such as Health Canada, Canada Revenue Agency, Canada Border Services Agency, finance ministries, and provincial agencies in order to support the implementation of regulations. The CVA advocates for sensible and effective policies that are firmly grounded between protecting youth and ensuring that adults have the freedom of choice and access to harm-reducing vaping products. This includes maintaining access to flavors. Smoking kills 48,000 Canadians every year, making it the leading cause of preventable death and disease in our country. 48,000 deaths. Flavors are a key reason vaping has emerged as the most effective tool to help people quit smoking. There are over 1.9 million adult vapers in Canada. 90% of whom use flavors other than tobacco, mint, or menthol. They rely on these products to stay off of cigarettes. A blanket ban on flavor will not eliminate demand. Instead, it will drive consumers towards dangerous, unregulated products sold by illicit traders. The legal vaping industry stands as the last line of defense against these unsafe, illicit market products. Many don't realize that the vaping industry was not founded by big tobacco, but by people who smoked, who saw firsthand how effective vaping was in helping them quit. Today, the specialty vape industry directly employs over 8,000 Canadians, with many thousands of jobs in associate sectors, supporting thousands of Canadian families. Our industry contributes more than $2 billion into the Canadian economy and over $400 million annually in excise taxes, which help fund essential government programs. Various tobacco control organizations are pushing for a national flavor ban. Let's be clear. A blanket flavor ban will do absolutely nothing to protect Canadians, especially our youth. It will do more harm than good. Organized crime groups will exploit this ban, filling the void left by legitimate tax-paying small businesses that make up our retail base in every community across this country. This ban will not curb youth vaping. Instead, it will likely increase it. Without a robust regulated industry, our youth will be targeted by those who love no rules. The products sold by illicit groups will be unregulated, meaning unsafe, more addictive, and widely available at lower prices with zero regards for age restriction or safety. Instead, tobacco control groups should be advocating for effective enforcement and higher penalties for laws we already have. In every government meeting, the CVA advocates for stronger enforcement, report illicit activities, and present actionable solutions to address these challenges. We are a true partner to government agencies. We must recognize the legal vaping market's vital role in harm reduction. Unlike the illicit market, the legal industry is heavily regulated, with strict rules on ingredients reporting, advertising, and preventing youth access. The vaping industry is committed to upholding these standards and providing adults with access to less harmful alternatives. A legal, regulated vaping industry is the only way to protect youth while providing safe products for adults. There is no other way. Anyone that tells Canadians otherwise is being disingenuous and deceitful. It is critical for us to recognize in the many reasons why youth engage in risky behaviors. The Canadian Tobacco and Nicotine Survey shows that youth vaping is often linked to stress, mental health issues, and peer pressure, factors that a flavor ban will not solve. Other substances like cannabis and alcohol currently have higher usage rate among Canadian youth. Flavor products are widely available in both categories, yet they do not face the same level of scrutiny as vaping. Effectively combating youth vaping, we should focus on education, providing parents, teachers, and coaches with the tools they need to help youth make informed and responsible choices. We protect our youth by implementing smart measures, not by just talking about it. Our youth needs to be protected, but so do adults. Canadians deserve freedom of choice and bodily autonomy. This is not about defending the industry. It's about protecting rights of Canadians to make informed decisions about their health. According to the Royal College of Physicians, and I quote, "The hazard to health arising from long-term vapor inhalation from the e-cigarette available today is unlikely to exceed 5% of the harm from smoking tobacco." Instead of stifling access to these less harmful alternatives, we should be advocating for the responsible use as part of a broader strategy to support public health. This is aligned with Canada's tobacco strategy of achieving less than 5% tobacco use by 2035. Canada has widely been a leader in harm reduction. We continue to urge the federal government to listen to science, consult the industry, and work with all stakeholders to create safe and smart policies. We must not let misguided bans destroy the progress made in harm reduction in Canada. Thank you.
We will now take questions on Zoom. Nous allons maintenant prendre les questions en ligne. Si vous avez une question, s'il vous plaît, utilisez la fonction main levée. If you have a question, please use the raise hand function. Is there something you would like to add to your statement?
I've never been asked this question before, but I think our statement is very clear with our requests. The request is about change. We have gone through so much in this country, especially when it comes to changing the way we think about addiction, and we've forgotten about the most deadly addiction out there, the one that allows people to be sick for a very long time and struggle, which is tobacco-related illnesses. And we're doing nothing that aligns with the other ways we deal with addictions. I just want to be able to remove the stigmatization and move forward and help people with safer nicotine options in this country. Sam, do you want to add anything?
Sure. I think it's really important to highlight, to government is to follow the science. The government has the Scientific Advisory Board on Vaping, part of Health Canada, and we should follow and look at the science that's being made available today. There's a lot of research and studies, and that's what we want to recommend to government.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci.
Beaucoup.